Okay.
What's up, y'all? Dr. Paul, Liberty Hill Comics. Welcome to episode 72. The comic book conservators are back. I hope everybody had a great week. I had a great week. I'm looking forward to the show. We got a great lineup for you. Starting right now, we have the OGs back.
Captain, the boys are back.
How you doing?
Good, man.
Hey, nice to see you.
Glad to see you guys.
Yeah, what you been up to?
Well, I took a vacation, which was nice. Spent about a month in Germany.
Nice.
And I'm back now. I've actually been off work for like 2 months.
It's wow, nice. You're gonna forget how to fly.
I know. I'm kind of scared. I had an interesting event this last week. I attended the National Aviation Hall of Fame induction for 2025.
Cool.
Which was a big black tie event. You know, we're talking the Wright brothers and things like that. My mother, for those who don't know, is actually a very famous aviatrix. So she got inducted, and we attended, and it was really a nifty black tie affair. And
congratulations!
I'm very, very, very proud of my mom. I mean, she spent a lifetime of flying, and she broke glass ceilings for women to get into aviation, and so they honored her with this national award. So good for mom.
Very cool. Where was it located?
The actual Hall of Fame is located in Dayton, Ohio. However, they moved the induction ceremony around the country. This time it was in Wichita, Kansas. Okay. Which seems strange, but that's the home of Cessna. That's home of Piper Aircraft Beechcraft. Sure. A lot of the aviation manufacturers are centered around Wichita, so that's kind of why we were there. But
Dayton being where the Wright brothers hailed from. Is that correct?
No, they were from. They did their soloing from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. Yeah, but they're from North Carolina.
Oh, are they? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now, Dayton's where the big Air Force Museum is. So, anyway, non-comic book stuff. So, but very cool. I'm glad to be back. I just did an unboxing video, which I'll have to put together that I got from Heritage. So, I had like 6 auctions worth of stuff. It's got some really cool stuff.
I feel like prices are coming in a little bit. The last couple, like the last 60 days, feel like they've been a little slow. I don't know if it's just the end of summer doldrums or the start of a new trend, but Golden Age has been really strong like the last 18 months. And I feel like the last 60 days, there have been a couple of good deals if you're a buyer.
There was some stuff that, one of the big auctions at Heritage, some of the prices got a little bit out of hand, in my opinion.
That's always true, right? But
you just got
all of them being out of hand. It was some of them.
Yeah, it was just some of them. I got some really great pickups, which I'll share with you guys later. But it was a good deal.
Awesome.
So how about you guys? What have you been up to?
Bill, what you been up to?
Hey, Phil, if you've never watched before, coming to you live from New York City, border of Brooklyn and Queens, and I'm also known as Phantom Restoration, or if you were one of my clients that came by this weekend for a piece that I'll show later, Phil the Governor, which I think is very funny, a name that I made on the CGC forums over a decade ago. That's 15 years ago now. That's kind of stuck. So Drowning in Comics, happy as always to be here with you guys this fine Sunday and talking about our little niche within the world of comic books.
Yeah. Well, let's thank our sponsors: Collecting Chaos, Salesboy Comics, You Pluck My Last Nerve, and JSS Brooklyn. If you are watching this live, you are enjoying it ad-free. Thanks to those gentlemen. Give them a thanks. Follow their channels.
Thanks, guys.
And spread the love. I also want to give a shout out to Morris Devereaux, who gave me a suggestion for the A block book. And it was the most expensive conserve book sold in a few months, actually. So it was
Wow.
a lot of fun, and I appreciate him keeping an eye out for that. Hi to Rom Space Knight, who comments on the beautiful colors of the cover of our A Block book, which it really does have some beautiful cover. Morris is here. Collecting Chaos is here. The Professor is here. Welcome, welcome. Vulu's here. Don Carter, Ben Stewart, Jeff Goodsell, Jason the Archivist. We had to take a week off. The show with him was so phenomenal. No one wanted to follow. Collecting Chaos says, I missed a good deal on Superman 25 when I forgot I was about to end and didn't get my bid in. This is why
I can't count how many times that's happened to me.
Yeah. Now, I'm pretty good at emotionally letting it go because I don't know what the bidder's high was, right? Like I could look at it and go, I would have paid $1,000 more than that. There might've been someone willing to pay $5,000 more than that, right? So I usually emotionally let those go, but it does bum me out if I missed an opportunity to bid on something I was intending to. And but I highlighted this comment from KK because one of my measures for if the market's coming in is when I look at a book and I go, well, I would have paid that. And I'm mostly a bargain hunter. And when I start seeing books and I go, I would have paid that. That doesn't mean I'm bummed I didn't bid because, the other bidder might have been willing to pay $5,000 more. I don't know. But it does mean that, to me at least, prices are kind of coming in a little bit.
Yeah, I had a couple of books that I was tracking, and I knew they were coming up for auction, and all of a sudden it just totally slipped my mind.
Yeah.
And then I go, hell, here's your auction results, and I look at it, and then it sells for way less than you're willing to bid for.
Sometimes that's a bummer. Yeah.
That's the rub. Yeah.
Yep. Welcome, Aaron and JCP as well. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see everybody here. We are excited to bring you our 72nd episode.
Can you believe that? 72 episodes.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah, it is. It's good to see you guys again. I missed you guys.
Yeah. Summer it's funny. I feel like summer comes in with a bang and kind of goes out with a whimper a little bit because there's a bunch of unofficial ends to the summer. Tomorrow is actually the solstice, if I'm not mistaken, right? I'm sorry, the equinox. It's actually the 22nd, right? The equinox.
It is
right.
summer. Days are going to start to get shorter.
But
yeah, and then that white stuff will start coming. And
for some, the end of the summer is when school starts. For some, it's that Labor Day weekend. There's there's kind of no exact end to the summer, but I feel like it's kind of here now. The summer's wrapping up, and this will be the fall. And I think we'll probably have more people tuning in. We'll be a little bit more consistent in the fall and the winter because we have fewer other obligations with travel and family and such. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in November.
Yeah, it's coming right up.
Fun. We're less than 2 months out. We're only about
I know
6 weeks out. A little bit more than that, I suppose.
Yeah, we'll get the trio together in person.
Yeah.
For what we're talking about, folks, is the Collectors Summit, which will take place in Dallas, Texas in November. So we will all be there. I'll be present and hanging out.
I'm cruising up there in my Camaro, weather permitting. We'll see how that works out.
Oh.
So, without further ado, let's jump into our A block. Look at this cover, just sick, right? Awesome
book. Yeah, you got Hitler. You've got that's just a great book.
I found out something about this book that I didn't know today when I was doing research for this segment, and I think it might shock some of you. I don't know, maybe everybody knows this, and it's brand new info for me only. But Captain America Comics #2. This is the first appearance of the round shield, as you can see on the cover here. It is the second appearance of Cap and Bucky. his first appearance is Captain America Comics 1, and he has that, well, for lack of a better term, shield-shaped shield in issue number 1. It's the second of back-to-back Hitler covers, and these are cover dated March and April of 1941, well before
We hadn't come
entry
in, yeah.
World War II, well before Pearl Harbor. And it was a bold statement. These were socially relevant things that were happening, and the comics were in the middle of them, and they were taking a pretty bold stance. There were a lot of Americans who didn't want to be in the what would become the World War, didn't want to get involved in the conflict in Europe at the time. And these were bold and controversial elements of society at the moment. It's also Cap's first bondage cover. You've got Bucky all bound up there, and who knows what Hitler was about to do to him. Hard to say. It is an anthology title, and unlike, for example, Batman's comic, self-titled comic, all of the stories in Captain America comics are not starring Captain America. This one, for example, has 2 stories, one about a caveman boy and one about somebody else, but it is an anthology. I think it's 5 stories total. Don't at me if I'm wrong. There's like 3 Cap stories and 2 others. The Cap stories are by Simon and Kirby, the famous team that created Captain America. And here's the thing that I learned. It's the first Captain America and Bucky in drag. Did you guys know that?
No idea.
No, I did not.
Okay, here it is. And I read the story. This is the lead story. I have to tell you, there's no actual good reason given for them dressing up like women. They putatively use these disguises to sneak past their sergeant, but in other issues, they just sneak out the back of the tent. Then they stay in these disguises. What this grandma and the child were doing, on the army base is not discussed. They sneak onto this aircraft, but again, there's no reason why they couldn't have booked tickets in their civilian identities on this aircraft. No reason is given why they can't. And then once on this aircraft, they change into Cap and Bucky. So I feel like since no actual reason is given for why...
Are you saying this is a suspicious plot point?
They had to dress up as women? I have concluded that it's just because they wanted to.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Hey, just have a little extra fun.
First Cap and Bucky in drag. Captain America Comics number 2, April of 1941. I don't know what else to say about it. Here are those 2 covers back to back. Yep. I think it is a little girl, although to be fair, maybe a little boy. But clearly Cap literally says grandma and is wearing a corset. I guess you bring up a good point, Jason. Could be little boy, especially as maybe little boys at the time were dressed as girls some of the time. Here are those 2 covers back to back, just showing some of that Simon goodness. So Kirby at the time was not doing covers. These are credited as Simon pencils and inks. And Simon also writes most of the stories, or is credited with the writing anyway. Kirby does pencil some of the interior stories, and they share duties. But Simon and Kirby, the Simon and Kirby team does the creative for all of the Cap stories. A lot of elements in common here, but I like to see them side by side and just look at the things that are conserved between the 2 and the things that are already different just 1 issue later. In addition to the change in the shield, you'll notice Cap's sleeves are a little bit different as well. His sleeves are blue all the way down to the glove here. So, they were figuring it out as they went.
Yeah.
But two super classic covers, right? CGC does credit both of them as classic Hitler, obviously Hitler covers, but classic covers, which demand a premium in the marketplace above and beyond just your standards of the era. Captain America Comics #2, again, as I mentioned, published cover dated April of 41. Median grade relatively high. It's a 5.5 on this one. And something else I found interesting, 73 Universal is considerably fewer than Captain America Comics #1 census population. And I wonder if it's truly less common in the marketplace or if there are more raw copies hanging out. I feel like it's not the latter because this is still a very valuable book. It's hard for me to wrap my brain around someone letting this change hands raw. You're just leaving too much equity on the table if you do that. So I could see somebody enjoying it raw, in their own collection for a while. But anytime this book changes hands, I feel like it would end up getting slabbed. So I feel like most of them have to be slabbed, which leads me to believe, and I didn't look at the exact universal population, but I'm pretty confident Captain America Comics #1 is over 100. It might be pushing 150. So it leads me to believe Captain America Comics #2 is legitimately less common in the marketplace. And if you were putting together a run, it might be, in fact, tougher to find this one than issue 1, which would help keep prices on this comic book pretty stiff. And in fact, the last 7.5 Universal sold for over 50 grand. This was March 30th of 2023. I remember 2023 as kind of the year that the bottom fell out of a lot of comic book prices.
Yeah, because COVID was ending and the prices started dropping.
I feel like the Golden Age was a little less susceptible than like the Silver and Bronze Age stuff.
It was, but my point being, it seems hard to characterize this as a frenzy sale.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
No, not at all.
Also 7.5, because the median grade is 5.5 here, there's actually a lot of copies higher than 7.5 of, well, I don't know how many are available in any given moment, but there's about 15 copies, I believe, higher. I think in the next slide, we'll go into detail on that. That said, the price of this quadrupled from like 2012 to 2023, which is really ended up being an outlier. So this is Go Collect's data with their algorithm. And because an 8.0 sold in 2021 for only 26,000, they have backed, and a 6.5 sold for 18.6 in just in the last year. Their algorithm has kind of smoothed that out to say that, in fact, the fair market value of a 7.5 is 36,000, not the 50,000. I think that's probably correct. That said, last sale is 50 grand, and you got to respect that, right?
Yeah.
Interestingly, that last sale is cream to off-white pages, so you could see maybe the premium being paid for a white pager or something, but that's just not the case. It's not a pedigree. It does present quite well, but still, it seems to me like an outlier. It seems to Go Collect's algorithm as an outlier. So I'm not going to necessarily assign an exact fair market value to a 7.5 in today's market, other than to say the truth is probably between those two numbers somewhere. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's spot
Yeah,
on.
I've found Go Collect's algorithm a little bit lacking in some areas because of the
Sometimes it
lack of
is, yes.
sales. Yeah, you got to look at the lack of sales, and if you get one outlier, that's all it takes to throw the thing off. So,
More.
I
Yeah, I agree.
yeah,
But
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying to agree. That's all.
The other thing that I think is interesting here, as I said, sometimes you start to see them go nonlinear when you get the fair market value can go nonlinear when you get to the real top copies. But, there's 5 and 8.0, 5 and 8.5, and then 5 more between 9.92 and 9.4. That's 15 copies better out of only 73. I mean, that puts this 7.5 at only like the, I think it's around the 72nd percentile or something. There's plenty of nicer copies out there. To pay a huge premium for the 7.5, I could see paying the premium for a 9.2 or a 9.4, but big premium on a 7.5 seems
This
a
reminds
little
me.
suspect. That's why I feel like it's a bit of an outlier this one.
This reminds me so much of years ago. I got a really nice copy of Flash Comics. God, forgive me. I believe 86, right? The first Black Canary.
Sure.
So I want to say it's 80. No, I know 92. 92 is
92
her
is the first cover.
I want to say 86.
It's
but
the
for
one
some
with the
reason-
dinosaur on it.
Yeah, it's the
you're
dinosaur
right.
cover.
It's 86. Yeah.
It's a very innocuous cover. Even if you collect Golden Age, it may not be on your radar. You'll look and see, wow, a 3.0 of this book goes for like 10 grand. It's like, wow. And you're like, why is this?
That's a deal. Yeah, that's a deal.
I got this copy that was raw on eBay. It had humidity damage on just the cover, but I ended up getting it pressed, and it came back I think it was a 7.0.
Wow.
Right on the dot, which for that was nice, but it right in this marker where it's the same kind of thing where I realized when I was going to sell it that there were past auction sales that it was just like this. It was like, is this an outlier? And then you started looking at the graded copies, and it was very much like this, where it was almost like the book should have been lower grade because more people would have had access to it because they were the ones looking for it. Like, it wasn't nice enough to be the high end for the people going for the high end because there were too many still graded above, but it was too nice for the people going below. So like, it's like that weird sweet spot really where the right person needs to show up when it goes to sell, because it's this weird, there's oftentimes not compression at the higher end like this. You see that more on the lower end. So it's odd how it can be like the grade is just a little weird for the people that buy this in grade.
Like, it might only be worth twice as much as a 2.0.
Yeah.
And you're looking at it going, it's a 7, dude. How is that not worth 4 or 5 times more? But for these big keys, people are willing to pay a lot of money. There's a lot of price compression at the bottom. People are willing to pay 10 grand for a 0.5.
Well, they don't come up for auction that often. And that's the reason. You can sit there and all of a sudden you've been waiting 10 years, and all of a sudden there it is. That's the one. Man, you're going to go to the wall to buy that thing because you want it so badly, because you'll never get another chance.
Exactly right. And then you don't know if one sale happens and then within the next 6 months 4 copies come out of the woodwork because people have been sitting and they're like, oh, my copy's worth this now. And then you start to see, I think that's exactly what happens.
We definitely see that, right? Whenever you see a big sale on something, you see other copies come out.
Yeah. And then you give it a couple of years and it's like, oh, it's been a while since I've seen a copy of those come up. And it's like, yeah, everyone started to hold on because
Morris has pointed out that Cap Shield has a different color pattern here. I don't know if it was throughout the book or if that was only on the cover, but excellent point.
And the prototype stage, basically, still.
Yeah. Children's clothing started getting gender relevant in the 20s, so I don't know what Bucky is doing. Then again, I never trusted that Robin copycat anyway. Well said.
Bucky.
I mean, Cap is just a copycat of that dude that showed up in Pep 1 as well. So,
yep.
The Shield.
Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, though.
So here we have this book was just graded. The grade date was
Oh, it sure was.
7/02 of this year. So it probably went to grading and went straight to the auction house from grading, frankly, because the sale at, based on this grade date, the sale, it almost had to have been. As we pointed out, cream to off-white pages here. Conservation includes cover reinforced and cover cleaned, which is interesting. Spine stress lines to the spine, very light multiple crease the front cover, crease right top of front cover. I mean, this book presents really well, people. Let's have a closer look. And, I'm not sure what to think of the cover reinforced, because normally we reinforce a cover when we have a tear.
It could be nice, clean, vertical tears at the staples where they just popped off, but all the paper's still there.
Yeah, it could be.
See that? Yeah.
You see one of the tiny color breaking creases in the upper right here quadrant, or right above April 10 cents.
Yeah.
Otherwise, look at the color saturation.
Awesome.
Look at how
it's beautiful.
I mean, the cut too. If that last sale, that book that you showed, the one that went for 50, was a very nice copy, but it was slightly
this has a better cut.
This one has a nice. I mean, if you're gonna spend the money, for some people are like, well, I want to wait and get one that presents a little bit better. But,
I would take those.
If you're a buyer of this, are you concerned that part of the swastika is cut off?
Nope.
I wonder. Here, even more of it's cut off in this. This is a stock image I pulled up.
Yeah.
Even more. Oh, that's the same one.
Yeah. There you go.
There.
Oh, even more of it's pulled off.
It's pretty significant.
I think that's a good point. This is a particularly good cut, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It presents, the eye appeal of this book is outstanding.
It is above a 7.5, isn't it?
Yeah, but no question.
Looks like a 9, really, just at first glance.
First
that's
glance.
One of those things where it's like,
well, let's look at the back.
Come on, that's beautiful.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's to call it a 7.5 is harsh. I can see that lower staple. It's got tears right there. That's probably where the reinforcing took place, I'm guessing.
I think we see a few spine ticks here.
What were the notes again? Were there any notes on staining?
No.
Oh, so it's the creases. That's what it is. So it's the severity of the creases, really, is one of those things where it's
sometimes in these golden age books you can look at like the back of the cover, the interior of the cover, if you will, and you can see these harsh folds that break the fiber, but they haven't broken the ink on the front of the book because the ink is so thick on these guys.
Exactly.
You've seen that, Phil, right?
So many times, and I see people. That's one thing that CGC is very consistent overall, and it is kind of. I've handled so many books that I've resubbed knowing like it looks like the grade is harsh, but I know that there's these things that are here. Yeah. So really it's, it's more understandable because you're only seeing part of it here. You always have to.
My copy of All-Star 3 is like that, where it's actually got a fold right down the center of the front of the cover that from the inside you can tell broke the paper fibers.
Yep.
But from the outside, you can't tell because the ink is so thick on some of these golden age masterpieces.
Yep.
All right. So what do we think this sold for?
Wow.
It hammered in the last week. It sold at Comic Link.
Can I say it's been at least several weeks since we've done one of these, so I'm like actually kind of excited to be like, all right, let's play the I'm learning right now game and try to take my best guess.
Viewers, give us some guesses.
Morris can't guess because he knows.
He does know. disqualified. He and his entire family disqualified from winning. Although, you know, all you're winning is our admiration, right?
Captain, what do you think?
My last nerve is coming in at 35,000. The professor says 60K. Collecting Chaos says 28K.
I'm going to come in at 38.
38.
All right.
Jason's doing the Price is Right game with the professor again. He's at $60,001. Jeff Goodsell is at 42,500. I'm assuming it's 1,000. Don Carter's at 50K. Ben Stewart's at 27.5. Professor changed his bid to $60,002.
I'm gonna go 22.
22.
Okay.
Rom Space Knight's at 42,525. I think you'll all be shocked. It hammered for 14,138.
Wow.
Which is another one.
I was close.
And Comic Link doesn't have a buyer's premium, a bidder's premium. So this is the hammer price. I do think if you use a credit card, there's a 3%, credit card fee.
Yeah,
actually, if you wire the funds or write a check, you don't pay anything more than that. And as a matter of fact, if you're out of state, they don't even charge you sales tax. I love Comic Link for these reasons. I don't love how they put together their let me put it a different way. I'll do it in a more affirmative way. I would like for them to separate their books by Golden Age, Silver Age, Modern, etc. Their auctions are not searchable very easily, and they're all gobbled together. So right after this one will be, or right before this one is ASM 129, right? And it ends up being a huge catalog, and I'm just not a buyer of 98% of the stuff in the catalog. So it takes me a long time to sort through and prepare. They also, if I remember correctly, they don't have a watch feature. So the only way for you to kind of watch is to put a bid in early on. So for those reasons, I think that you can tend to find deals as a buyer at Comic Link. As a seller, those things it may be offset by lower seller's fees, and the fact that there isn't a buyer's premium might help you believe that buyers are going to pay a little bit more, and that may be true. But this seems like a hell of a deal. So I actually put together two graphs. If you believe the last sale, which was just over $50,000, then it sold for 28%. And if you believe that was an outlier and you want to use Go Collect's algorithmic value, then it sold for 39% of Universal.
Okay.
I would have bought that book in 2 seconds at that price.
I have for the viewers.
But if you were there bidding, you don't know what that other bidder. I mean, that other bidder might have been willing to go to 30.
I know that book is beautiful.
This is the way I think about it. Sometimes I get in there and I bid, and then I say, at least I made the winner pay an honest price for that book, right? Like I didn't win it, and I'm okay with that. But I helped the seller get an honest price for that book, because sometimes, it feels like these books, it's not very often, but anything can happen in an auction. And sometimes it feels like they just slip away for ridiculously low prices.
What is a 4.0 of this? Like, what would a 4.0 go? I don't know if anyone's watching.
I don't think I went that low, but I think I still have my window open.
I just
fair market on a 4.0. There's not a ton of sales, but there was actually one sold in the last year. 16,800 on a 4.0.
Okay. So just my rationale guessing 22 was looking at the work done cover cleaned, you're always going to get a knock, and more so than you would other standard conservation. And then the reinforcements most likely reattaching the cover, or you can assume worst case the cover's reattached, which means if you were to remove what's there, you can't remove the cover cleaning, but you can remove the reinforcement. So it could be a 4.0 conserved still, and then what's a 4.0 worth minus the cover cleaned. So that's why I was trying to guess.
Sure.
I bet force maybe a 20 and then something like that, maybe a little bit extra.
I think there's a lot of interesting ways to think about what fair market value is. But
it feels cheap though.
Let's look at it looks like universally people thought this was ridiculously.
Yeah, it still feels cheap.
Jason's got this in his mattress. Collecting Chaos says they stole it.
They did.
I feel bad for the seller.
I was just thinking the same thing. If I was the guy selling it, I would be just pissed.
Yeah. I think this is rare that this is happening, but if it is, man, you got to pay an honest price, Jason. You got to pay an honest price.
Yeah, Dr. Paul and I occasionally compare notes. Say, "Are you bidding on this?" No, I'm not bidding on that. Okay.
We make sure to stay out of one another's way. Yeah, I have the same attitude here. Collecting Chaos. I have my number, and if it goes beyond my number, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
And if I'm not going to be okay with it, then I make it a very aggressive number. But usually that's not for very many things. It's mostly just
the final number again, 14 something.
Yeah, 14.
14
that is. I mean, even accounting for the potential removal and cover cleaning, that still just does feel at least, I don't know. It's even $7,000. Like that's a 33%. It's someone got this for a good price. It's going to end up on a dealer's website for $40,000 at least.
Oh yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, most like. Yeah. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed that. Before we start the B block, give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying the show. Once again, thanks to our sponsors. And does anybody know? I'm not following super closely. Does anybody know we're in the voting period now for the YouTube Community Awards, Comic Book Community Awards, right?
I'm not following.
No idea.
I have no idea. Last year they announced the winner literally while we were at Collector Summit. So if the timing is similar, that'll be in about 6 weeks.
And voting was open for like a month or something too.
I think it's still open now.
Yeah, generally, probably.
Yeah, I think, yeah.
I do like Dr. Paul, as you normally say for that too. We don't say vote for us, but vote for someone, because there really are so many people creating content on YouTube in this space that the vote is worthwhile going to at least someone that's taking time to make some content for everyone to watch.
Absolutely, man. There's nobody in this corner of the internet getting rich off of the content we're creating. That is for darn sure. Hey, Phillip. Nice of you to join us. Welcome. Yes, Jason says nominees have already been voted for. Yes, so the list now is, the nomination period has been closed for a little while. You can now vote. And with that, Phil.
Yeah.
The mic is yours.
How you doing?
Me?
So,
yeah. Great.
How you doing? How are you doing?
Yeah, you got to say it like a New Yorker, man. How you doing?
All right. So I got a backlog of a lot of stuff I could pull, and admittedly, there were some books I was almost going to grab, but I didn't want to rush just putting together slides for a book. So I grabbed something that was a little more accessible, something that I don't need 20 slides to show. So it'll be a little bit of a shorter segment. But that's a little bit different. And this is just because it was recent. And maybe again, this can be a little, hey, if you don't know about this kind of stuff, this can be another eye-opening experience to another listener.
Well, I got to ask, Phil, I know you collect original art. Is that one of your pieces?
So full disclosure, this is not one of my pieces, but I have a little bit of information about this, and I tried to be a little more aware of how we detail the comics. So I wanted to do the same thing here, where I actually show what this piece sold for in the past, what it was purchased for, to kind of give it an idea, and then also here just to kind of give a little context where that is rough. I think it's roughly to size, so that shows how big a comic is and how big the art is. I think maybe the comic.
Yeah, I think people get confused when they look at the comic art. They think it's the same size, and no, it's they're poster size, folks. That's for the artist.
Some of them are. So this is just
well, if you look over your shoulder there, Phil, on your back wall, we can see original art back there.
Yep. But it can come in varying sizes. So just as like a quick, so like this piece here, The Walking Dead, for those that don't know. Tony Moore drew the covers to the first 24 issues, and he drew the interiors to the first 6, and then a new artist came on and did the pencils for the remainder of the series. So the second penciler that came on drew sizes standard size, like you see here, and then a couple years in, he switched to smaller sized art, where it's almost a 1-to-1 scale of how it was published. So it's dramatic.
Really?
Which
there aren't very many artists working at that small a scale, are there?
Which was a good compromise versus it being done digitally.
I was just going to say,
it's like pick your. Do you want a smaller piece of art, or do you want no art to exist at all because it was all done digitally? And it's like, you know what? That's a good when you put it like that. So.
Well, if anybody's interested in a little aside. Similar things are happening. One of my other hobbies is Magic the Gathering, and the cards obviously have art, commissioned for them. And the artists used to work similar scale about, well, I guess a little bigger, Phil, because I think it's normally about 4 up. A lot of them end up being, like that big for a card that art's going to be about that big.
Yeah.
Some of them are even larger. Occasionally, they're quite large.
Yeah.
But where that went was almost all digital. I think it was greater than 80% digital. Then, though, there was so much demand for art, and there were so few pieces because 80% of it was digital, that the prices for the original art started going through the roof. I mean, in some sense, there's like kind of a fixed amount of capital that's going to go into the original art for every set they drop. And if that's, say, 200 grand and there's only 20 pieces, then they're all going to sell for 10 grand. If it's 200 grand and there's 200 pieces, they're going to average $1,000 a piece, because there kind of is just like a set amount of capital that's going to flow into the art for that set. What happened is artists that had exclusively worked in digital, even in school, started producing real live media so that they could get that extra payday because they were so significant. So there's actually been a resurgence of real art. I don't know. Look, don't put any connotation on that. I just want to.
No, but what you're saying is totally
real world art. I'm not saying that digital art isn't real. I'm just saying, physical art, I suppose, would be a better way to put it. There's actually been a resurgence in physical art. I don't know, is something similar happening in the comic world? Or is it still being more and more digital every year?
There's some artists that have been in the industry for 30, 40 years that made a switch to digital, and they'll sometimes do physical. So there's still those artists, but then there's other artists that view it exactly as, I'm already getting paid to do the work, and then if I want, I can keep the originals of my own and sell them at a later date. It almost feels so for them. It comes down to a time thing. Some of those artists value their time a lot, and they can get work done digitally faster. So having the secondary piece, it's not very. They're artists. They're not. Some of these people really are. They're like, it's not about the money, man. It's about, this is how I live my life, and you got to respect that.
Sure.
So that said, though, just for full, I'll show one that I have here. So this, on the CGC forums, the top panel here was my user icon for over a decade.
Oh, wow.
And so this is one of those pages where you can see, I'm sure I have a comic right here. So just to show this is a back cover. To size, this is one of the smaller ones.
Oh, yeah.
But it's also
almost a 1-to-1.
the only one that exists. And this is the death page of really the worst villain in the whole book. And his name was Phillip. So my username on the boards was Phil the Governor. And in a very, celebrating his death here, this was my this is what I liked. It's very visceral, and I've been a big Walking Dead fan for quite some time.
That is cool.
So this page here, I got an email a while back from someone who said, "Phil the Governor, you're the perfect person. I needed to do some work on this piece of art. And I know you know Walking Dead, and I know you do stats, so you're my guy." And I said,
"Yeah,
hey, I'd love to be your guy. I love this stuff, so let's do it." So sent me this page, and I'll show you what I did on it. So just a quick little thing, right? This piece, it was originally published by Image in October of 2003. So we're going over 20 years now. This is vintage art.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to think about Walking Dead being vintage, but it is. Written by...
That is older than AF 15 was when I started buying comics. So everything's relative, right?
Yep. So, didn't mean to jump. So, just so for those that don't know, this was written by Robert Kirkman. The art, as I mentioned, was by Tony Moore at this point. He was doing the covers and the interiors. And this issue is the first appearance of Rick Grimes and the Walking Dead universe, and a property that's become a multimedia franchise. So it all started here with that issue 1 there with Rick Grimes, and you see some zombies in the reflection of the glass, and this very seemingly innocuous image number 1 where they lied to the publisher and told them that aliens would show up in issue 6, and then by issue 5 they were like, "We don't see any clues that they're aliens," and they were like, "Yeah, that's because there's none. We were totally full of shit." So it's kind of funny how something can be born and come into...
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Collecting Chaos. Everybody give him a thumbs up.
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, if you haven't checked out his channel, go check out his channel. And there's something neat you can do there. You can buy him a cup of coffee. So if you enjoy his content, or you appreciate him being a regular sponsor here, jump over to his channel here on YouTube, buy him a cup of coffee. It'll be fun.
Thank you, Collecting
Oh my gosh. Speaking of Collecting Chaos, it's older than Action 1 was when I started reading comic books. Man, that's freaking, that's awesome. Gorilla Monkey 3K is here.
The anonymity of the internet, you would have no idea. I'm Collecting Chaos. I'm like, you're like in your 20s. What are you talking about? All right. This is one of those things I didn't show before. Sometimes because the data is not there. In this case, it was. And also just to show, hey, if you didn't know what kind of value some of the stuff gets, well, just sit down in your seat here, because for pen and ink drawings, early Walking Dead art, these are some recent sales. So the zombie splash from issue 1 was listed and sold for $55,000 last year. And I actually know who owns that and did that deal, and it was partial trade, but the page was still valued at that amount, which is not chump change.
Wow.
This page here too, you can see actually not the last sale, but it originally sold at Heritage in 2022 for $28,800.
Oh, wow.
And the person that bought it, I did some deal, I guess it ended up on a dealer's site, and then it resold for a couple thousand more, actually, earlier this year. Wow. And that is my client now who owns it, bought it. And, he wanted to get a nice early example. And there's only, issue 1 at 24 pages. They're not all out. Tony Moore still owns some of them. So there's less than 24 you can get. Not all have zombies. And hey, this is the first time Rick Grimes kills a zombie in The Walking Dead, and it's a zombie page. Kind of a cool page here. I wish I had taken a picture of, I believe, the bottom back cover, or it might be there very light in the front. But one cool thing about seeing the art is old provenance marks, like the $2,500 pencil mark that you see in the top left. Presumably, when Tony Moore probably sold this page for the first time, that's what he got. So
Sure.
that was a lot of money then, and I'm sure he didn't think that within 2 decades it would go for 10 times that at auction. But
who could predict the success that franchise is?
Yep.
I mean, yeah. Wow.
Pretty staggering. And so when you look at this page, from what I've seen in art, there's a period between like 1999 and 2002 when a lot of the stats went from being done traditionally and being pasted on the art to being done completely digitally. So you won't see word balloons pop up. In some cases, even the stats of the art and panels like you see here won't even be pasted on. And like they would do that a little bit longer after here, but not up until 2010 and after. They were never doing that.
Yeah, there was a transition. And there's pages from the mid to late 90s that start having stuff missing as well.
Yep.
That's about when they started, right? With some of the digital stuff.
So when I first put in my order of Walking Dead pages 15 years ago in 2010, I got a bunch of the pages. I'm like, opening up the package. I look at them all and I just see the art and I'm like, where are the word balloons? And for a minute I was like, did I get taken? Did I get taken for like $800 on these 4 prints that I got? And I know and I didn't know, and I had to learn. And what I realized now, and what I know now, 15 years later of collecting, is that there's a stigma for longtime art collectors that see art like this without stats, and they're like, I don't like that, because they want the context. So what I first started doing on my own was making stats of my own pieces, because I want the context. I want to see what talking heads, and seeing that dialogue, you're like, oh, that's why the page is so good. It's not just for the art, it's about the story and the writing and stuff too. So I'm a big advocate on, if it makes sense, doing this for modern pages, because I think that they're just as deserving of older pieces of having their context. And in this case, especially for aesthetic and eye appeal, you got a $30,000 piece and you want it to look as nicely as you can. And it's a little jarring just seeing those panels where you can see the character was drawn, but the rest of the art is just statted from previous panels. So
absolutely.
So this is what I did. And I tried to, in the past, I've just talked about this here. I actually tried to grab some screenshots from Photoshop, what I do. So on the left, you can see around the perimeter it's a scan of the art. And then what I have laying over that is a high-res scan of the published book, which The Walking Dead was originally printed in black and white and grayscale, so it wasn't color. But as you can see here, I'd already started to do the work of removing the color from the blam in the first panel, and then all that color in that panel on the right there. But I left open just to show what I have to do. On the left there, that's how that gray tone, and on the right, that's after I did all the work of removing the color, which was not just a click of the button. Until I actually want to look into some AI Photoshop, because this is actually a case where it might be more applicable, but at least to right now, as far as I know, there's only certain shortcuts and things you can do, but it is still manually having to remove it. And the pixelization and the graininess of this makes it where oftentimes you have to go in manually and clean up with brushes against the art. So this took a bit. This didn't just take 5 minutes. This took me a little bit of time to clean these up and make them look as they should look.
So in this case, the gray tone is digital. It's not done on a stat by a person.
No.
It's done in a computer on the scan.
Just like a color.
It's like digital coloring, right?
Yep, exactly.
Interesting choice that you're coloring it digitally anyway, that you don't bother using color. You do it in.
So The Walking Dead was very, I don't know what the word, risque. I mean, in a time too, obviously, with comics, for them to think that they could get away with selling a book at the same price at $2.95 as other books that were in color, but they said it fits the theme of the book. Sure. And they've since reprinted it in color. And personally, I'm not a fan of the colorist. I don't think it looks very good. I still think it looks better, and it doesn't take away the enjoyment. I think it really fits the world. But yeah, it did have to. Cliff Rathburn did the gray tones for the book.
Don,
Thanks, Don
thank
Carter.
you. Appreciate you.
Nice, Don.
Collecting
Thank you.
Chaos as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks.
So jumping through, this is after on the right, like in the background, you can see the piece of art. I've already cut a transparency that fits neatly over it. And it's taped at the very top on the back of the piece so it can be lifted up. And then once I've removed all the color and everything and got these ready, I get them printed, as you can see here. And then I have to cut all around the perimeter. And on the right, you can see what I've done is adhered it to this archival adhesive, basically. So it's like a whole roll, so I can adhere all the stats to it, and then I need to cut them out. And then on the right, you can see it. It's I'm like removing the
backing.
The backing, so that way the adhesive's on the entire strip, so it keeps it so it's totally adhered. It's not going to peel up. Once it's there, it is stuck. So that's the best way that I found to do this. So there's no,
and obviously that's going
messy and glue.
That's going on the overlay.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
And then once all those are adhered, you can see this is a nice little crisp clean before and after. And man, on the left, I can appreciate what it is, but on the right, man, doesn't that just look? It looks cohesive. There's no question of anything. It looks natural. I thought the color match came across well. And then it's a little hard to make out, but what I did was on those panels where I recreated the missing art, the images of the character are cut around the perimeter. So that what you see there is the art, and then it's a stat all around what you see. So even like him opening the door and that little bit there, what you see on the right image, that's the original art and just around it. So I think it works very seamless. You wouldn't even be able to tell what's original and what's a stat. And so
Phil, in this instance, where does the image of the police car come from? Is that from a different page of this same book? I know where you got it from.
Yeah.
Where does the production team get it from?
Yeah, so sometimes it's a little more.
It was just
obvious.
a doodle on a different piece of paper he sent in.
Sometimes it's a little more obvious. I wasn't 100% sure, but it seemed like what they did was took panels from the previous page and altered them a little bit. So sometimes it's they obviously just took this exactly, and then sometimes you look and say actually what they did was they took this and then they brought it out, they shifted it 30 degrees, and then they added more art around the. Sometimes they really go out and do a bunch of extra things.
Sure.
So it ideally would have been great to get a nice high-res scan of the page that had those panels, but we don't even know where all these pages are exactly. That's one of the other things with these pages. You don't know where all them are. You may never see them again. So I kind of had to just work with what I could find.
That's great.
But
that's really great. Like I think it's hugely enhanced myself.
Oh, thanks. And just also too, it can just show how sometimes the staticness of what you're looking at, without that blam, you wouldn't even really know he's shooting. It's just he's pointing the gun. So you can see the shell casing once you look, but then seeing it again, you're like, oh, he's obviously shooting the gun. And it kind of it's funny when the client gave this to me, he didn't even think of the blam because, again, that part is normally done digitally, so you wouldn't even think to do it. But when I was like, you're already doing the panels, there's no reason not to do the blam. You might as well add it in. It's not like you're like, oh, that's a Walking Dead page, it's weird, it has the blam. You're just going to be like, wow, it looks like what I would imagine. And then it's really just a question of, oh, I didn't even know Walking Dead pages maybe didn't have stats originally. So
yeah,
man, a page I would love to own.
Very cool.
These Tony Moore pages are certainly starting to get out of my price range, at least, because even non-issue one pages go for $15,000, $20,000. So I'd have to get one where it's just a bunch of talking heads, but
Vulu says The Walking Dead kicked off the zombie phenomenon, right?
Dawn of the Dead, right?
Maybe, yeah.
I think it's certainly fair to say in comics.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, in comics, yeah, I would say that's fair.
Collecting Chaos says there's a 3-page story in Astonishing number 10, the Atlas publication with the March 1952 cover date, titled The Walking Dead. I think The Walking Dead was already kind of
There was a film, I think, in
already
the
a
30s,
thing,
40s.
right? Yeah.
All right. When I was a kid, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead gave me nightmares.
Well, that's a classic.
That was my first zombie thing, where the trying to eat your brains through, reaching through the stairs. That scared the crap out of me. When I don't know how old I was. I was little though.
Jason says it'd be cool to have like a 1-inch thick chunk of plexi so that if you see it face on, you could see it as it was printed. But if you saw it at an angle, you could view the art unmolested.
That's actually a cool idea.
I think ideally I get where that is coming from, but I think, I don't know, at least from the way I do this, it's so tough because even with these overlays, sometimes what I'll do is I'll put 2 extra small pieces of archival tape like 2/3 of the way down on either side, and that way it keeps the overlay
real tight
against the art. Because once it lifts even a little bit, looking at it from any angle that isn't,
you get a little shadow and a little 3D effect.
You can see the lift in the stat. I mean, it's to the point where I know sometimes I need to make it a little bit, not have it come right up to the perimeter of where the border is, because even that slight angle you look, it'll be covering the border, and then it looks off to your eyes. So but theoretically, I guess if it's like within like a confined area, like a Declaration of Independence, and you're looking at it, that would be a cool, like as an artifact to get to look at it like that. I can definitely get behind.
Collecting Cast says there have been zombie-style stories since comics began, though they disappear from time to time. I guess we just need a new Seduction of the Innocent. We can refresh everything. It seems like, censorship may be on the rise. Maybe we will get that. Excellent. I enjoyed that, Phil.
Yeah, just a short little, not the coolest looking page, I understand.
No, I thought it was very cool.
I think that's super cool. Yeah. And I like having some modern stuff, right? Like, even though we do a lot of older books here, comic conservation shouldn't be limited to older books. So I know we talked about it being technically classic since it's over 20 years old, but in the realm of what we normally talk about, that's a baby.
It is.
So
frowned upon by some, but also everything was that old at some point. So we got to give our dues to some of the stuff that we know are
we've talked about
not going anywhere.
The time compression of of our lives and of cultural relevance, and so we also talk a lot about the term Grail. Regarding original art, I would say that has to be a Grail piece.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Regardless of the timing,
100%,
right? I mean, a page from the first book that kicked off such an important franchise across all media, and as you point out, the first time our protagonist kills a zombie, that's Grail status in my book. And I know I've talked a lot about people overusing the term, but I don't know. I don't know what would be much better than that if you're in the realm of original art and this century of original art.
Yeah. Some people talk about, within the realm of art collectors, there's some that will only go for the covers, then they'll only go for splash pages, because when it's on your wall, you don't realize it is. If it's just a bunch of panels, it can be impressive, but a splash page is really big. A cover, the whole image is big. It's easy to overlook that. But like for issue 1, either I'm almost positive Robert Kirkman owns the cover issue 1, and I'll just say this: pretty sure he's not going to ever be hurting for the money to need to sell that. So if you want a little piece of Walking Dead 1, you got to get a panel page.
Yeah,
that's your best bet. So
I think if you get a cover, you definitely have to shouldn't say what anybody should have to do. People should collect how they want, but I would definitely get an overlay like you showed us for that copy of What If. Just because the trade dress and everything else is like,
it was just asking for it.
So much a part of the cover and the nostalgia of it. So anyway, Sales Boy jumping in, keeping it moist, joining as we are saying goodbye. Welcome, my brother. And thank you for the super chat. We appreciate you. We did mention you at the top of the show as one of the sponsors for this show. We've already got 3 lined up for next episode: Collecting Chaos, Don Carter, and Sales Boy Comics. Appreciate you all. Appreciate everybody. Appreciate my co-hosts, the OGs, joining me here tonight. And like I said, we're kind of up this summer. We're about to have the equinox, and then I think we're going to settle into a great season of collecting and comics and conservation, and I'm really looking forward to it. Jason, thank you so much. Jason's nice. Jumping in before we say goodbye with his own super chat. Appreciate you, man. Again, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a thumbs up, like the video, smash the subscribe, do all those things. Do the same for our sponsors. We appreciate them so much. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everyone being here. And I want to say thank you to everyone. And until next time, take care of one another. We'll see you next week.
See you later, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.